On the night of a rare eclipse, a child was born in the small village of Lira. Her name was Lira, and the prophecy surrounding her birth had been whispered for generations. According to ancient texts, she was destined to wield immense power, enough to reshape the world. But with great power came great sacrifice. It was said that Lira would be the one to either save the world or bring about its destruction. The village was quiet, nestled between dark forests and ancient mountains. Lira's parents, though proud, knew the weight of the prophecy. As the years passed, Lira showed signs of extraordinary abilities. By the time she was 6, she could make the wind stir with a single thought. At 8, she could summon fire with her hands, and by 10, the earth itself would bend to her will. The villagers saw her as a miracle, but her parents feared the truth. They had never wanted a child born under such a prophecy. They kept her abilities hidden, but as she grew older, the signs of her power became impossible to ignore. Lira's destiny was written in the stars, but she couldn't escape it. By the time Lira was 18, the power within her had reached a dangerous threshold. The village lived in fear of the prophecy, and strange things began to happen. Wild animals appeared at the edges of the village, watching her with an intensity that made her uneasy. It was as if they knew something that she didn't. One day, a man arrived in Lira, a mysterious figure known only as the Seeker. He was tall, cloaked in shadows, with eyes that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of time. His arrival was no coincidence. The prophecy had been set into motion, and the Seeker had come to find Lira. "You are the one," he said upon meeting her, his voice low and compelling. "The child of the moon, the one who will either save or destroy this world. The time has come for you to choose." Lira felt an overwhelming sense of dread as the Seeker spoke. The words seemed to echo in her mind, and she could feel the weight of the prophecy bearing down on her. "I don't want this," she whispered. "I don't want to be the one to decide." The Seeker's gaze softened. "You may not want it, but it is your burden. The world is on the brink of chaos, and you are the key to either its salvation or its doom." For days, Lira couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with the knowledge of the prophecy. She had always felt like an outsider in her own life, and now it seemed the world itself had cast her into a role she wasn't ready for. The Seeker had spoken of a choice she had to make, one that would determine the fate of the world. But how could she choose? The two paths laid out before her were filled with uncertainty and sacrifice. The path of light would require her to give up everything, to sacrifice her very essence to restore balance. But the path of darkness offered her the power to rule, to reshape the world according to her will. The choice was agonizing. The Seeker had told her, "The moon will guide you, but it will not tell you which path is right. You must decide on your own." The night before the full moon, Lira stood on the edge of the village, looking up at the sky. The moon was bright, its glow almost hypnotic. She closed her eyes, feeling the pull of the prophecy. She knew that whatever decision she made would change everything. As the days passed, Lira's power continued to grow. She could no longer ignore the calls from the darkness that seemed to pull at her very soul. Every night, she dreamt of a shadowy figure, a being of immense power who offered her everything she ever desired. The darkness promised her strength, control, and a world where she could bend the laws of nature to her will. One night, the shadow stepped out of her dreams and into the waking world. It was Drax, the emissary of darkness, the one who had come to offer her the power to rule. His presence was commanding, and his eyes burned with an unsettling fire. "You felt it," Drax said, his voice smooth and enticing. "The pull of the darkness. It calls to you, Lira. You have the power to reshape this world. All you have to do is take it." Lira hesitated. The temptation was overwhelming, but deep down, she knew the price. To accept the darkness meant forsaking everything, her humanity, her connection to the world, and the lives of those she loved. "The path of darkness will give you power beyond your imagination," Drax continued. "But the path of light will cost you everything. You'll be nothing but a sacrifice, and the world will still fall into chaos. Choose me, and the world will bow before you." Despite Drax's tempting offer, Lira knew she could not abandon the world for the sake of her own desires. She turned away from the darkness, and the air around her grew colder. Her heart ached as she thought of what the path of light would cost her. She had always been afraid of losing herself, but now she had no choice. The Seeker had been watching from the shadows. He stepped forward, his face somber. "You've made your choice," he said. "The path of light is not easy, and it is filled with sacrifice. But it is the only way to restore balance." Lira nodded, feeling the weight of the decision settle on her shoulders. She had chosen the path of light, knowing that it would not only change her life, but the fate of the entire world. With the Seeker's guidance, Lira prepared for the final ritual that would seal her fate. The moon would guide her through the darkest of times, and she knew that she had to embrace the light, no matter the cost. The night of the full moon arrived, casting an ethereal glow over the village. Lira stood alone on the mountaintop, where the ritual was to take place. The Seeker had led her here, guiding her every step, but now the time had come for her to face her destiny. The wind whispered through the trees, and the stars above seemed to shine brighter as if they, too, were watching. Lira raised her arms to the sky, feeling the pulse of the moon's energy coursing through her. The power within her was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. The Seeker stood behind her, his voice barely audible in the wind. "This is the moment that will define the fate of the world. You must let go of everything, your fears, your desires, even your memories. Only then will the light consume the darkness." Lira closed her eyes, her heart heavy with the knowledge of the sacrifice she had to make. She had to give up everything she was to restore balance. There was no turning back now. With a deep breath, she focused all her energy on the moon above. The ritual began, and a blinding light enveloped her, leaving her body shaking with the intensity of the magic. The sacrifice had begun. As Lyra's power surged, the earth beneath her trembled. From the shadows, Drax appeared, his figure casting an ominous shadow over the mountaintop. He had been waiting for this moment, knowing that if he could stop the ritual, he could seize the power of the prophecy for himself. "You think the light will save you?" Drax sneered, his eyes glowing with malice. "You cannot defeat me with your magic. The darkness will always win." Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She had been warned that the darkness would come to try and stop her, but she hadn't expected it to happen so soon. Her body trembled as the light around her flickered, threatened by the overwhelming force of Drax's presence. But she couldn't stop now. She focused on the light within, drawing from the deep well of power that had always been a part of her. "I will not let you destroy the world," she whispered, her voice trembling but strong. With a cry, she released the full force of the light within her, sending it crashing toward Drax. The battle between light and dark had begun in earnest. The clash of light and dark was deafening. The mountaintop shook with the force of their magic, and the winds howled like wolves caught in a storm. Drax's dark energy was powerful, but the light within Lira was pure, unyielding. Every strike she made with her magic seemed to shatter the very fabric of the Dark Lord's power. But the cost of using such power was immense. Lira felt the energy inside her starting to drain, as if each burst of light was pulling a piece of her soul with it. She knew that she could not keep this up forever. She was running out of time. In a desperate move, Drax summoned a wave of shadow so powerful that it threatened to swallow the light entirely. Lira gasped, her vision blurring as she felt herself faltering. The darkness crept closer, threatening to consume her. But in that moment, a vision flashed in her mind, a memory of her family, of the love and hope she had carried with her all these years. It was this love, this connection, that would allow her to overcome the darkness. With renewed strength, Lira unleashed the last of her power, her body glowing with the full brilliance of the moon's light. The darkness screamed in agony as it was forced back, Drax's form dissolving into nothingness. As the light surged, Drax's dark form disintegrated, leaving only the remnants of his shadow. The mountain fell silent, the winds no longer howling, and the air cleared. The eclipse was over, and the moon shone brightly once again. Lira collapsed to her knees, exhausted and weakened. The light inside her had burned so brightly that it had nearly consumed her, but it had worked. The darkness was gone, and the world was safe. The Seeker stepped forward, his expression unreadable. He had watched the battle unfold, knowing that this moment would determine the fate of the world. He had always known that Lira was the key to everything, but even he hadn't anticipated the cost of the victory. "You've done it," the Seeker said, his voice filled with quiet admiration. "The world is saved, but at what price?" Lira looked up at him, her face pale and drawn. "The price was my soul," she said softly. "But the world is free now." As the first light of dawn broke across the horizon, Lira stood, looking out over the landscape that stretched before her. The world had been saved, but she was forever changed. The power of the prophecy had taken everything from her, and now she was left with only memories of the woman she used to be. The Seeker, who had guided her through this journey, now stood beside her. "You've given the world a chance," he said, "but you've also paid the ultimate price." Lira nodded, accepting the weight of her sacrifice. She knew that her life, as she had once known it, was over. But she had become a legend. Her story would live on, passed down through the ages as a symbol of the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. The moon, which had been both her guide and her burden, now shone down on the world, a beacon of hope. And as the world healed, Lira's name became synonymous with the light that had saved it. She had fulfilled the prophecy, not by gaining power, but by letting go of everything for the sake of the world.